On time. Is this really my stream if I'm actually on time? First time for everything. So, I got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. Believe it or not, things happen and we get to discuss them. But let's wait for my main channel to finish rating me because people are still watching that. You know, I also realized that equity means taking someone else's shoes to give them to whomever the government likes. That's really what equity is. It's like the government gets to separate its own people into different classes, into different groups, and then takes the shoes from one group and gives it to another. That is equity. And usually it's because 300 years ago, your great ancestors, which in many cases don't even have to be traced to you, like you just look like them, so probably they're your ancestors, but they did something bad, so maybe like they won a war, you know, they won a conquest, and because of that now your shoes need to be taken away and given to someone else. The government gets to say what's equal. Equality like just can't exist between human beings, man. It's just like it doesn't. I mean, I remember when I went to school, we got grades, and I don't think like there were two students with the same grade, unless it was like an A plus. But that's, I guess, like a failure of the system to grade higher than A, because like if you were to be able to grade higher, then yeah, no two students would have the exact same grade. It's even like in height, there are differences. I know. We do not have equality under the law exists, right? Treating people, I don't think you can treat people equally though. Like there will still be differences, but like striving to treat people equally, let's put it like that. Yeah, that's a good thing. But actually not even then, because like not everyone deserves to be treated equally, right? Like I don't want to treat a thug the same way I treat a university professor. So no, like equality is like genuinely a bad concept. I can't think of any way where it applies, where I would hear it's like, okay, well, here's equality, and I was like, yeah, that's great. Communism, take your shoes away, and then come back in a few days and ask you how did you make them. Regarding the word communism, I think I need to make a video and explain. Because the thing is, like, obviously, it's kind of like religion in a way. There's differences between denominations, right? So like you got Christianity. But then you have, like, under the same umbrella of Christianity, you got Catholicism, you got Protestants, you got Orthodox. Like you got, like, a lot more denominations, right? But they're all Christians. And then under the umbrella of Christianity, even under the same denomination, like, let's say, the Catholics, the way Catholics behave today is not the same that Catholics behaved 300 years ago. Like, even though it's the same religion, and even though it's the same church, and it has, like, the same practices, that they have differences. And it's the same with communism. Like, you got the umbrella of communism, but then you have, like, different denominations. Like, you got your queer theory, you got your class struggle, you got, you know, like, all these other things. They're still under the umbrella of communism, and even then, the way that communists behave today isn't the same way that communists behaved 300 years ago. But I guess, like, the underlying principle of communism, or when people talk about it, is when you separate a group of people into the oppressor and the oppressed, and then you conclude that the oppressed have to seize the wealth from the oppressor, and then share the wealth amongst them equally. That is what the essence of communism is. Everything else is just like, you know, just for example, environmentalism, right? Like environmentalism, if you look into their theory, they even suggest that richer countries have to do more in order to fight climate change than poorer countries. So, like, basically, they will suggest that poorer countries should be allowed to pollute in order to achieve the same standard of living to what the West is having. And it's like, well, hold on a little bit. Like, if you're saying that the planet is dying, that the planet is fucking dying, this is like saying slavery is bad. But we still need to allow slavery to happen in some countries because they haven't reached the same standard of living like Great Britain or the United States. So until they reach that standard, we still allow them to have slaves. Like, you wouldn't say that if you genuinely believe that you want to abolish slavery, would you? You don't even know the difference between socialism, Maoism, Stalinism, Leninism, Marxism. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like I guess the same way like the left says everyone is a Nazi and they don't give a shit about the difference, right? Like you don't hear the when the someone at the left calls you a Nazi and you're like, well, hold on a little bit, like what do you mean by Nazi? Like I don't follow the National Socialist, blah blah blah. No, it's an insult, right? It's the same way when you say communist to a person. It's an insult. Like you kind of get the general vibe that they're going with, like, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is the correct ideology, 100% spot on. But like you're trying to describe a way of being, a way of thinking that you disagree with. By the way, Marxism actually allowed to have guns, if you believe it or not. Like, let me show you something about Karl Marx. See, a lot of people believe that Karl Marx was a left-leaning individual, but when you actually, unironically, like I'm willing to bet, if you take Karl Marx today, he is going to be viewed as a fringe far-right radical. I'm not kidding. Like that's how left the culture is. This is an actual quote from Karl Marx. The whole proletariat must be armed at once with muskets, rifles, cannons, and ammunition. And the revival of the old-style citizen militia directed against the workers must be opposed. He then talks about that under no circumstances should the weapons be taken away from the working class. Right? I mean, let me hold on. Let me find the other quote. Like he's very strict on this issue. So Marx on taking away guns. Here we go. Under no pretext. I love how clear he is, right? Shall not be infringed under no pretext. Should the arms and ammunition be surrendered, any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated by force if necessary. Look, you'd get banned from Patreon for hate speech. Manifest observable behavior, like Karl Marx was an agitator. He would unironically be under TOS violation. Like the United Kingdom would probably take him off social media for saying something legal yet harmful. Should the population be allowed forks? Not without a license. I see that the United Kingdom is going towards that area. Actually, it's interesting. If I look at the statistics in London, like the last ones that I noticed, the knife crime goes up, but at this point, the politicians have even stopped bothering addressing it. So, like, they had a knife crime epidemic, they called it. And there were moments of wisdom when politicians suggested that knives should have GPS on them in order for people to be able to track where the knives are at. I'm not even kidding. I don't even know how you would be able to power the knife. Like, in order to work, I guess you need to put it in an electric socket so that it powers the GPS. But, yeah, a crime is committed, and then, like, you turn on the detecting device, and it's like, oh, shit, we're surrounded by knives. Where are they? In people's kitchens. But they had, like, a really huge problem with knives, and obviously the problem isn't with the knives, it's the people carrying them, but still, the politicians don't want to address that. So, they started talking about how they wanted to ban the knives, cut the pointy end, you know, all that type of shit, just so that they don't talk about the actual problem. And eventually, they just stopped talking about it altogether. Like, from what I can tell, the knife situation is still as bad as it used to be. Like, people are still knifing each other in London. It's just that the politicians don't talk about it. They don't mention it now. It's like letting 1,000 tigers roam free in a major city, saying getting eaten by a tiger is part and parcel of living in the city. No, it's kind of like already having laws against, you know, like let's say a tiger escapes from a zoo, right? And you have laws in order to deal with that, but you refuse to apply it. That's how it is. It's like, because like most of the problems that are happening in the West don't require any new legislation. It just requires the current legislations to be enforced. That's it. You just need to make sure that everyone has a knife license. Yeah, like you should have like a 2-week training course in order how to handle a knife. You need to have a legitimate reason on why you would want to have a knife. Right? And then you need to show that you're capable. You need to be over the age of 18, and then you buy a knife. But I genuinely like have a question for people in Britain. Like, ironically, like this is something that I want to know. How do you buy a knife? Like, if you're not allowed to carry it, right? So like you can't just carry a knife because like it's illegal. They say that you're not allowed to carry a weapon like a blade that's longer than blah blah blah. Okay, how do you buy one though? Like for your kitchen. Anyone from Britain? Hold on, I'll ask ChatGPT. I'm genuinely curious. Like, how do you buy a knife in Britain? So I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Is it illegal to carry a knife in London? So, ChatGPT is not a lawyer, but the legislation about knives can change over time. And it's illegal to carry without a good reason. Unless it has a folding blade with a cutting edge of 3 inches. And a good reason might include, for example, carrying knives you use at work. Or as part of religious practices? Hold on, like what fucking religious practices? What? Wait. What religious practice? What religious practices require a person to carry a knife? Some religious practices and tradition involves the carrying of knives. Sikhs and Kirpan. One of the central tenets involves adherents wearing the 5 Ks. The 5 articles of faith, a ceremonial sort of knife, which symbolizes a Sikh's duty to come to the defense of those in peril. Most countries that have restrictions on carrying knives or blades make exceptions for the kirpan due to its religious significance. Is that a thing, though? I mean, maybe it is. I've never seen it. Like, what, do they actually... But it's like a ceremonial knife, right? Like, it's not an actual knife? Sikhs get a pass? That is so fucking cool. That unironically, like, that is so fucking badass. So, like, what, do they wipe, like, do they have, like, the ceremonial, hold on, let me check, a Sikh knife. Dude, get the fuck out, this is so fucking cool. Holy shit, look at that, oh, look. So you get to carry this around? And it's so tiny, though, like... Oh, this one is big. This one is muy grande. This is so fucking cool. I didn't know about this. Oh, look. Dude, this is so badass. So like, they get to have this at all time? And if someone is in danger, can they help? Or is it just like for decoration purposes? I'm genuinely curious. I don't know. I am pistol instructor in the United States, and to obtain pistol license in the United States, the minimum requirement for a firearm license is only 8 hours of training and 2 weeks is absurd. Maybe it is. In medieval times, everyone had a knife, and nobles carried swords. A Sikh Rambo once defused a hostage train situation. Get the fuck out. I genuinely, like, did not know about this. Do we have any Sikhs in the comments section? Like, back when I had the 700 people watching, it was different. Like, if I asked, the answer was probably yes. I just made the religion where you can carry a submachine gun. But ironically, like, that's the reason why you carry a knife, right? Like the reason is so that they can defend people. Now, if guns existed to the way we have them today, if they existed back when that religion was written, I'm pretty sure, like, they would carry a weapon, like a pistol or something. In Canada, at one point, we were allowed to open carry blades in general. I think in Romania you can. Like, you're not allowed to fight someone with it, but, like, I think, like, if you have, like, a weapon on the street, you're allowed. But, like, no one is doing it, right? You can probably, like, have a weapon if you're buying it. So, like, you just bought a chainsaw or some shit and you're carrying it home. Like, that's fine. By the way, yesterday something weird happened. Holy shit. It just reminded me. Like yesterday, I have like people messaging me, like suddenly my phone goes bzzz, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And apparently Pipkin Pippa desired my presence. And she's like, and people were like, V, Pippa wants to speak to you. Like, look at this. Hold on, I got like one, I think I can show one of them. Because I posted it on Twitter. Pippa screaming for Romanian TV to come to chat. It's not an invitation, this is like a demand. I'm reading this and like, what the fuck did I do? She was looking for confirmation of a Romanian thing and screamed, hey V, where are you? And I'm like, dude, this is scary shit. She's got like 2,000, 3,000 people in the chat now. She's a big girl. I helped her grow up though. I feel proud about it. I was like the support on bottom lane. Trading the AD carry. But still, scary stuff when like people are like, V, she demands that you go there. I'm like, what the fuck? Your audience and Pippa's audience, if represents as a Venn diagram, would be a perfect circle. Probably, yes. No, that's the thing. Like, I didn't go to her stream. Like, people were messaging me because I wasn't there. And, she has guns, chat. Like, she is scary. I don't know if she can bring them to Romania. I think, like, she can't cross state lines with them, but still. Did she pay for the sub? No! I'm sure if you buy a chainsaw, you would like bill of sale. No. I think you can walk with a chainsaw on the streets of Romania. Hold on, let me check. I think it's legal. As long as you don't threaten people with it, right? So, like, if you go, well, then, yeah. Can you legally carry a chainsaw on the streets of Romania? There are no specific national laws in Romania that directly addresses carrying a chainsaw in public. However, there are certain things to consider. Public order. Even if it's not illegal to carry a chainsaw, doing so might attract attention from law enforcement or concern from the public. Yeah, again, it depends how you carry it. Like, if you start swinging it around or you're trying to scare people with it, yeah, you violate the public order. Transportation safety. If you're transporting it, it would be wise to ensure it's in a safe condition. And intent. Carrying a chainsaw with the intent to commit a crime or harm someone would, of course, be illegal. Yeah, but, like, again, like, it depends how you carry it. Now, let's see. Can you carry it in London? Carrying a chainsaw in London or anywhere in the UK can raise some significant legal and safety concern. Offensive weapons in the UK, the Prevention of Crime Act makes it an offense to carry an offensive weapon in the public. Any article made or adapted to use to cause injury to that person or intended to have a person to having it with him for such use by him. While a chainsaw isn't explicit listed as an offensive weapon, its potential use as one could lead to legal complication. Bladed articles, another one. Apparently, while the chainsaw isn't typically a bladed article like a knife, it's sharp and could potentially be placed under this category. Okay, so basically, no, hold on. Like, if you're a good lawyer, you can make the case that you can carry a chainsaw. As long as, again, like, you're not trying to threaten anyone with it. Like, it's actually interesting. Holy shit, I found a legal loophole. I need a lawyer from UK to tell me if this is true or not. Like, if the cops catch you with a knife in UK, you're guilty. Like, it's kind of like a prison. It's like they found you with a shank. But if they catch you with the chainsaw, you may be fine. Because, like, the law interprets the length of the blade. But the chainsaw doesn't have a blade. It's got, like, those teeth, right? Like, I mean, technically it is a blade, but it's not in the same way legally described as the blade of a knife, right? Let's see, what else could we, Can you carry a skite? Can you carry a skite in Romania on the street? Doesn't have specific national laws that explicitly address carrying a skite in public. Alright. Yeah, same thing. But can you carry it in London? Can you carry it in London? In London and the UK at large, carrying a site openly in public could be problematic for a number of reasons. Offensive weapon, again. Bladed articles. Oh, now you can't get away with that, because like a sky does have a blade. Ah, God. It's ridiculous to see how restrictive the UK is compared to my country. It's not a blade, it's a chain. Yeah, good point. The sky is a blade. Yeah, you can't use that excuse. The C is it's a sight. Ah, I see. Chainsaw is less dangerous than the knife. It's not like that. The way it works, like I will tell you how the law is being made, because I went to law school and I understand why this thing happens. First of all, it's not even like the senator that makes the law, it's his aides, right? Like the people he hires. But the way it works is that the lawmaker is going to think, all right, well, how can we reduce knife crime? And they're going to think, all right, well, no one should carry a knife longer than this, blah, 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 right? So they write it. But in their wisdom, they don't think about something like a chainsaw. Now, obviously, a chainsaw is far more dangerous than a knife. But they don't think about it, and it's also because most people don't use chainsaws, right? So it manages to escape the legislation. Now, sure, if someone actually starts committing crimes using chainsaws, then they outlaw them as well. But normally people don't. I will give you another example, right? So in Romania, they try to ban all sorts of weapons from the public, right? So you're not allowed to have guns. You're not allowed to have any type of rifles or whatever, right? Like anything that fires projectiles is not okay. Then they outlawed, it's like, okay, but like what if someone uses a grenade? Well, those go under munitions and explosives. So you're not allowed to have any sort of explosive device. You're not allowed to have any type of weapon that has munition. Like all of this is outlawed, right? So I'm at the law school, and all of a sudden I ask, like, what about a Molotov cocktail? And the teacher goes like, well, I just mentioned explosives aren't allowed. And I'm like, but it's not a fucking explosive. And the teacher goes like, it's not? No. Now, what is it then? It's like, well, you put gasoline in a rag and it's like, it's a Molotov cocktail. So the teacher actually goes to search, comes up the next day and says, yeah, you're fucking right. It's like, so like, is it legal? And they're like, well, it shouldn't be. And I'm like, okay, but like, is it legal or not? And it's like, well, it's not. And I'm like, well, which law bans it? And they couldn't tell. Let me see if they actually managed to fix this. So, is a Molotov cocktail legal in Romania? So apparently a Molotov cocktail or a petrol bomb is generally considered an illegal weapon by many jurisdictions. Oh, in 2022 they ratify it. Okay, so let's see. Cause significant damage or harm, blah, blah, blah. Arson. If you have any concerns about it, contact a legal expert. But like, what precise law does ban Molotov cocktail? Holy shit! I think even ChatGPT can't answer this. They're not explicitly named in the law. Instead, their illegal comes from laws related to weapons, explosives, incendiary devices. Weapons and ammunition laws, okay, but that doesn't, because like it's explosive and ammunition the last time I checked. So unless they give me the criminal code's law number. Romania, the document you're looking for. The penal code of Romania, illegal possessions on weapon and ammunitions, acts of terrorism or violent actions, arson or intentional damage. Okay, so like the Molotov cocktail itself is not illegal. But when you use it, you commit the crime. This is what I understand. And it's important because like if, the difference is if you have a gun, that is illegal. So if you commit a crime with the gun, you get an even worse sentence because like you had the gun and then you committed the crime. So like both of them add up. With a Molotov cocktail, from what I can see, like simply having it is not necessarily illegal. But you can still get into trouble for intent because like why the fuck would you have it, right? And then it's also like when you throw it, you automatically is going to commit either arson or intentional damage, terrorism or violent actions. So like no matter what you do, the moment you threw it, you committed the crime. That's how I interpret it. But like the thing itself, apparently, I may be wrong. Like I will have to revise the code again. But like the thing itself is not illegal. It creates like a very bizarre, ambiguous situation. Can Sikhs carry the ceremonial blade? Yes, apparently, like you are allowed to carry a blade for religious purposes. So, like, if they're like a religious person and they're carrying the blade for their ritual, then it's fine. I have it because guns are restricted. Keep up, Judge. Well, no, like again, like I think if they find it. So let's say they find it in your car, right? And you have like the bottle with the rag and everything, and it's not lit. They will try to prove that you had intent to do something with it, right? Like they will interrogate you and stuff, but like if you have a good lawyer, they can't do anything. If I interpret the law correctly, I mean they can complain, bitch and whine, but like at the end of the day, if the law doesn't ban it, and maybe there is a law that bans it, I just but if there's not, they can't do anything with it. But like the moment you lit it up, the moment you light it on fire, that is intent, right? Like you have to throw it because like otherwise, and even if you don't throw it, it's still an incendiary thing because like you're not allowed to set fire in public space, so you're still going to be guilty of something. What if I'm a Mexican and want to praise the sun god? Well, the way it works, is that there are certain religions that are considered official. Like, there are certain things that a religion has to do in order to be legally considered official, right? So, like, for example, Scientology. Like, Scientology in some places it's considered a religion, in other places it's considered a cult, legally. I think in Germany, for example, they consider it a cult. While in other places it has the status of religion. And this is important because, like, as a religion, you get certain benefits. Like, for example, the Sikhs are allowed to carry the ceremonial blade, even though the law bans the carrying of guns. Tax exemptions, and many other things, right? Like, many other perks. So it really differs from country to country. Like, in some countries it's fine, in other countries it isn't. I don't even know, like, hold on, let me ask ChatGPT, what is the difference between a cult and a religion? What is the difference between a cult and a... I think it's also the number of people that participate. So the distinction between a cult and a religious is a matter of significant debate. And terms can carry positive, neutral, or negative connotations. So the first one is the size and establishment, exactly as I said. Religions are larger and more established than cults. Religions have longer and are recognized and accepted as a broader segment of the population, where cults tend to be smaller and less mainstream. Leadership and control. Cults revolve around the charismatic leader who exercises inordinate amount of control over the members. This leader might claim unique insight or direct communication with a higher power. Established religions, on the other hand, usually have a more structured and transparent hierarchy of leadership. Isolation versus integration, teachings and practices. Cults often have unconventional beliefs and practices which are typically introduced by their founder or current leader. Religions generally have a more stable doctrine. Acceptance of criticism. Established religion usually have mechanisms to tolerate dissent or reform. Cults, on the other hand, tend to be intolerant of criticism and often label the enemies as traitors. Yeah, so basically, from what I can tell, the difference between a religion and cult is the number of people and the age of that belief practice. So usually religions require for their operation to be a little bit older, right? So at least 100 years, I would say. And then it's also, but like the thing is, I suppose like all religions must have started as a cult at some point. And all religions, probably revolved around the charismatic leader, which, like it was less accepted of criticism and blah, blah, blah. But as they gain in size and become larger and stuff, then it's a lot more difficult to control all the members, so they become more tolerant. At least this is how I view it. Yeah, religions are like cults, but like 1,000+ years on. Like that is a good way to put it, yeah. Jesus doing his own thing could have been called a heresy. Well, didn't they call it a heresy? Like, isn't that why they crucified him? It is, yeah, like at that point, like if you were during that time, and let's say Jesus existed, I'm pretty sure like they would have considered what he did to be a cult. Is Apple users a cult? I don't know. Like, I think they require mysticism and stuff, but you can definitely have like a corporate cult. Right? So there are corporations out there that do have like a cult. It's usually with their employees though. And it's when they start saying, it's like, oh, we here at the Apple family, like they start calling it, they give you like a cute nickname and shit. Anyway, I want to show you guys the topic of today, which is something that's very bizarre. And it's even, like for me, it's difficult to comprehend. Because I don't believe that this has ever happened before. Been a long time lurker on your stream, and yesterday when you got into the Bible stuff was really interesting. I've studied American religions quite a bit, particularly Mormonism and its derivatives, so if you ever want more in-depth and accurate info on their history, policy, and theology, feel free to hit me up. It's an interesting topic like Mormonism, but it's not something that I would dedicate a stream to, because most of my audience aren't really interested in religions. I mean, it was interesting knowing, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this and this and that, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fun. But like to actually study Mormonism and to actually like go in depth and like find out what what their entire doctrine is, it's a little bit too much. Again, like if people were interested, and I see that those streams get like 400 or 500 views, sure, but like at the end of the day, the things that I do for myself, I do in my free time, while the streams are meant for entertainment. So, US misses $80 billion plane. Now, this is so fucking weird. Everyone is actually, oh, they found it. Hold on. Okay, so they found it. But like, a lot of people didn't believe the government, the government's, release of information regarding this, because it was so fucking weird. Okay, so allegedly what happened was that a pilot ejected from this thing, and the thing was on autopilot, so now they lost it. Why did they lose it? Well, they lose it because being a stealth fighter jet, it's invisible to radar. So technically, like, it was out there flying, but they couldn't know what it is. And because of that, they had to ground their aviation, which was, like, really bizarre, right? So why is it bizarre? Well, first of all, ejecting out of a plane, especially one that's $80 million, is usually, like, a last resort. Like, the pilot needs to lose control of the thing in order to decide to eject. If the plane is still flying on autopilot, it's very unlikely that the pilot would eject. But still, like a pilot is a human being. So, if he feels in danger, he may not follow protocol. It's like, okay, well, it's an $80 million jet, but I can't move it, and I'm afraid that, maybe it runs into some shit, so I can't control it, I'm ejecting. Okay, fine. But the other thing is, like, apparently he was having an escort. He was flying in formation. So why didn't the other guy keep chasing the plane, right? And the answer can be like, okay, well, maybe he didn't have enough fuel, or maybe, he was just not confident that the plane is flying properly, so he had to fly away and break off. But then, like, why did they ground all the other planes? So what I was thinking is that maybe there was like an error, like a glitch, an onboard system glitch or something. Like maybe they thought that someone took control of it, like a backdoor virus or something like that. So that's why they grounded all the other planes, because they thought that, all right, well, if there's like a safety issue, like if someone can hack into our plane, then maybe we should, like patch the software. So let's see what happened, because again, like, this was a big controversy yesterday. Like, a lot of people were having like all sorts of speculations. But it's also like the danger. I mean, these things, if they land, if they crash, it depends where they crash. If they crash in the middle of nowhere, like, that's fine, like, no harm, no foul. Well, it's $80 million harm and foul, but like, no one gets hurt, right? But if they crash into a populated area, or if they crash into a street or a highway or something like that, they can do a lot of damage. And that is very difficult to justify, right? So it's also the fact, like, even if you find it in air, like it's going to run out of fuel and it's going to crash, even if you fire a missile at it, the debris is still going to fall down. So this was like a really big hazardous issue. Like, imagine how it is to have this shit falling on your house. It's like, Jesus. So to mark an end to all the drama surrounding the F-35 jet, the US military search party found a debris field near Charleston, USA, which was later identified as that of the missing multi-billion fighter jet. The US military is sending out distress messages and asking the public for help in locating the missing plane, till the debris field was located just 2 hours from the US military base in Charleston. Again, like, they're making fun and light of the situation, but this was like a stealth jet, which means that it doesn't come out on radar. So this is why they were asking for the people to help them out, because like they legitimately can't track the thing. This is the start of the stream, TLDR. Well, apparently America lost an $80 million jet while it was in mid-flight. So that was a little bit hilarious, I would say. So anyway, I really don't blame the Americans for this. Though I am curious, like, if the pilot is to blame, because again, it's really weird. Like, yeah, you as the pilot are allowed to get out of the jet, but at the same time, it needs to be like the last resort. Like, you couldn't do anything else to prevent the crash, so you had to catapult out. I think like that this may end with a court-martial or like some sort of investigation. Like, they won't just... Unless, like, the pilot does have like some connections with politicians or something. My tax dollars at work. Yeah, $80 million of it. Pilot is probably fired or screwed. I'm generally curious what happens. So anyway, there's no dearth of drama though, with people taking a jibe at the US military for losing a multi-billion-dollar jet and asking the public for help to locate. It looks bad, but I can understand why they're doing. We're working with MSCC Buoff SC to locate an F-35 that was involved in a mishap this afternoon. I love the fact like $80 million for the US government is now a mishap. It's almost like $1 billion, It's a lot of money, let's put it like that. Oh, well, it's a mishap. We just happened to lose it. To be honest, like, F-35s, they're kind of the old generation, right? So maybe that's why they don't care. Did they leave any F-35s to the Talibans? I mean, if they left any to the Talibans, then it's understandable. They can be like, well, we don't care about this model anymore, so. Now that I got out of the way, how the hell do you lose an F-35? Oh, the pilot ejects while it's in mid-flight. And it's on autopilot. That's how you lose it. How is there not a tracking device? The reason it's not a tracking device is that if there is a tracking device, then the enemy can track it. But to be honest, you would think that in time of peace, they could have a tracking device specifically for conditions like this, right? So like when you're doing military exercises and stuff, you should have a tracking device. And then when you go to war, you remove the tracking device. It's not only that, it's like, what if someone steals it? You know, it has happened in human history that at some point someone stole a plane. There's some crazy person or whatever, right? But yeah. Oh, I'm thinking F-15. Oh, I see. Oh, this is the new one. Holy shit, this is the new one. Okay, yes, my bad. There is a transponder. Well, apparently they couldn't use it. I don't know why. But they didn't. If it was just a test flight, definitely should have a tracking device. Yeah. I was in the military and I was both maintenance and air traffic. Apparently they will investigate. What happens to the pilot is based on what the flight data record says. How, like, what if the flight, okay, what if the pilot is genuinely guilty? Like, we're talking like huge incompetence. How does he pay $80 million though? Like, what is the punishment? Hold on, I'll ask ChatGPT. Right, I'm actually curious. Like, what does a pilot? A U.S. pilot ejects from a $80 million fighter jet, which later on crashes. The pilot is found to have had no reason to eject. What is the punishment said pilot will face? If a U.S. pilot ejects from a fighter jet without justifiable reason, resulting in the loss of the aircraft, it may face a range of consequences. So it will depend on several findings, including an investigation, the nature of the incident. It depends if it was negligence, recklessness, or deliberate misconduct. Military justice could include destruction of government property, dereliction of duty, administrative actions, such as loss of flight status, reassignment to non-flight. Reassignment? You don't go to prison? Formal reprimands, which can harm their career. Mandatory retraining. Less favorable person evaluation. We're talking about an $80 million jet. In some cases, the government might seek to recoup financial loss associated with the destruction of the aircraft. However, it's relatively rare that the military to pursue financial compensation from service members for accidental damage or losses. What if it was deliberate? If a U.S. pilot deliberately ejected from a fighter jet with the intention of causing harm or loss to the aircraft, the consequences would be much more severe. Criminal charges. Article 108, destruction of government property, can be punishable by dishonor discharged and confinement for up to 10 years. Forfeiture of all pay and allowance and confinement. Loss of flight status. The pilot would almost certainly lose their rights to fly and never be allowed to fly military aircraft again. Dishonorable discharge. Civil liability. The government might also pursue financial compensation. You know, I actually remember when I was at law school, like, many people would ask, it's like, okay, but it's $80 million. Like, they're never going to be able to pay this. And the answer is, like, it's kind of like having to pay child support. Like, for your entire life, you're going to have to pay a sum every month. And the thing is, it's not really the fact that the government will ever get the money back, right? Like, maybe they will get, I don't know, like, in your entire lifetime, they may get, like, I don't know, like $500,000 or something, but it's the punishment that's important, right? Like, you're teaching them a lesson. And it's also, like, other people to be dissuaded from ejecting from pilot jets. PSYOP, every damn critical component is tracked. I don't know. Like, what, see, it's so easy to say PSYOP. This is the thing that I don't get. It's like, well, it's a PSYOP. PSYOP for what? Like, what is the purpose? Like, it just makes the government look bad and incompetent. What exactly is there to be gained from this? So though it is not yet known What was the mishap that led to the pilot, whose name remains undisclosed, ejecting from the seat, which caused the loss of the expensive plane? The authorities said that they are having an investigation. So they can't produce details. Okay. But it is weird because, like, even though with the investigation, people are saying that the plane was still on autopilot. So, like, if it's on autopilot, like, the way I understand it, and I may be wrong because, like, I haven't gone through military training, but the way I understand it, you eject when you know that there's nothing else you can do, and you know that your life is in danger. So, basically, like, some malfunction, or, like, the plane loses control. But if it's on autopilot, then, like, why would you eject? F-35B variant is 115 million. Oh, I see. Calling everything PSYOP is the new buzzword, like cope in the pot. Yeah, like, no, I agree that certain things can definitely be PSYOPs. But, like, I would at least need to understand, like, what is the reason for it, or, like, try to justify how the PSYOP makes sense. Right? They are testing AI and the AI went rogue. No, like, one of the possibilities, like, so like, if you really want to get into conspiracy theory and you're like, all right, well, what could have happened is if you have, like, someone on the ground managing to use the software that took control of the plane and it freaked out the pilot. So, like, the plane wasn't listening to commands, it was doing, like, things it wasn't supposed to. And the pilot realized that, like, someone outside of the plane has control over it. That would also explain why they grounded the entire air fleet, because they're like, okay, well, if there is, like, a way for some hacker to gain control of the plane, then we need to keep all the planes grounded until we figure out what the fuck is going on. So, like, that would probably... And that would probably mean, like, they wouldn't explain it to the public either, right? Because they don't want the public to know, hey, by the way, like, there's, like, some malware that can be used in order to fuck with our airplanes. But it's very unlikely, though, right? I don't think that this is the case. Could have been sold to enemy nation cover-up. Oh, like, what, like, sell one fucking plane? If the US, like, wants to give another nation a plane, they will just fucking give them a plane. Like, you don't need all of this circus. It was sold to Russia, yeah. Well, now I guess, like, their air force has been strengthened significantly. There was a similar incident in Italy where the Frieze Tricolore crashed for reasons. Crashed for no reason. Like, you gotta understand, like, the way the planes work, every single malfunction can lead to catastrophic... Like, they fly at speeds that are so fast that even, like, the slightest deviation can cause a crash. So, I do understand that it can happen. An angre during an autopiloted plane can be justifiable if the AP system cannot be switched to manual flight and the AC is not flying based on control paradigms is unsafe. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but, like, wouldn't you try to stabilize it? Wouldn't you try to do more? Then again, like, the pilot maybe did try everything, and then... the F-35 is not stable without computer intervention. Yeah, it is true. But, like, again, what if, like, someone from the outside could hack into the thing? You might eject from an aircraft if the cockpit was compromised. Well, no, like, this is not what happened here. By the way, ejecting from a plane apparently is so fucking dangerous. Like, you think it's like in the movies or like in Battlefield. You press the button and you eject. First of all, you need to make sure that the plane is the right side up, because otherwise it's not going to be a fun ejection. But, like, there is a story of a person that ejected at Mach 1. And I'm like, how the fuck can you eject at Mach 1? Like, how does that feel? And apparently the person goes out and describes, well, it kind of feels like having broken bones. The co-pilot didn't survive. And the guy managed to fall in water or something, and they managed to get him, and he had, like, a lot of bones broken in his body. It's, like, so fucking weird. It's like, okay, so, like, Mach 1, that is the Beyond the speed of sound, right? So, or is it just like at the speed? Still, like how much is that? Like 700 kilometers per hour? Jesus. Yeah, I'm actually, hold on. Like what is Mach 1? How fast is Mach 1? 760 miles per hour. Holy shit. Like you get the sonic boom and everything. Like 760 miles per hour, you barely see it if you're like on the same level with it, right? Like if you're in a plane and another Mach 1 plane flies past you, it's like you don't even get the, yeah, like ejecting from that. Holy shit. Never presume malice when it can be stupidity. That is correct. Yeah, the way the guy was describing, like he was doing certain flight exercises, and at one point he lost control, and he couldn't tell which is up and which is down. Like this is actually something that apparently a lot of pilots have to face, especially fighter jet pilots. If you watch any YouTube videos with it, it's so fucking confusing. You literally can't tell which is the sky and which is the ground, right? Especially when you're spinning. So, he basically couldn't tell the difference anymore, so he ejected. I heard someone say this is the result of military diversity hiring coming to roost. I would not be surprised. We already saw, like, the thing with the astronauts. Have you guys read the story with the astronauts? Holy shit, okay, so apparently there's, like, this astronaut lady that most people know about only because she was so hyped in the media. It's like, oh, well, finally a female astronaut, right? Apparently, she must have been pushed to the position because she wasn't really qualified for it. So I will have to like make a video to see what happened because there's like some conflicting evidence. But like the gist of it is like at some point she wanted to return to Earth. I don't know, like maybe she broke up or something. Like I generally don't know, but there was like a lot of mental stress on her, so she wants to return to Earth, and this makes her behave irrationally. Like she starts shitting all over the place. She broke the toilet. The astronauts were like just like there were feces everywhere. So like the Americans, they want to go now to use the Russian toilet, but the Russian astronauts don't allow them. And it gets so bad that it's probably her or someone else. They started drilling holes into the space station in order to cause them to return to Earth faster. So it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I'm like, yeah, like, the more you read, the more you're like, this can't be true. No, like, they're making it up. The ISS recycled air smells like farts. I mean, I understand that when you're in space, you don't really get, like, the luxurious conditions. But, like, okay, hold on, let me check, because we'll talk about it tomorrow, then. NASA finally builds a toilet space for women. Okay. So, the thing is, it's like, the Americans, they don't believe the Russians, but the Russians are accusing. It's interesting that in the case of Russell, the accusations are enough. I mean, look, in the case of Russells, we have accusations, right? But when Russia makes a claim that the astronaut made the hole in space station to get early, bizarre claim. Don't they have video cameras, though? Like, isn't this something that can be easily checked? Like, it's a fucking spaceship. It's not, like it's a confined space filled with gadgets to measure shit. It's why there is space, is to measure stuff. So NASA snapped at Russian space bosses for accusing one of its whiz astronauts of drilling a hole in the ship because she was having a panic attack and wanted to go home. Russian space chiefs accused the NASA astronaut of sabotaging the International Space Station so she could go home early. The Russian accused NASA age 45, were drilling a hole in the capsule because she was having an acute psychological crisis. Government mouthpiece, that's a high-ranking official in the space industry for the inflammatory comments, which NASA slapped down as not credible. In the last path of ongoing blame game over major tech failure in a Russian module 3 years ago, which almost knocked the International Space Station off course. The baseless claim. Oh, yeah, the baseless. Again, like, if it's a claim against a dissenting person, serious allegations. If it's a claim on a person that we like, baseless claim. Which could have provoked an acute psychological crisis, blah, blah, blah. I need to look more into this, because I know there's, like, a lot more articles. But, like, the articles with poop, those are the interesting ones. Apparently, the cosmonauts were forced to go on an 8-hour spacewalk to fix the hole using knives and gauze to cut into the space station. Theories for how the hole was made include human error by engineer on Earth, manufacturing issues, or sabotage. The last suggestion has sparked distrust amongst the Russian and American space agencies, who are now bickering more than they have for decades. Russia threatens criminal charges. Yeah, I genuinely don't think that the claims are as baseless as they may initially seem. Again, even if, like, you're saying, alright, well, it's a baseless claim, don't they have, like, video cameras and stuff? Like, isn't the inside of the rocket monitored? So... Oh, I know what it is, chat. I know what she wanted to go back and play Starfield. This is what it is, huh? Yeah, it's like one of these claims that is so fucking stupid that it probably is true. Alright, someone gave me a 4chan link. If it's on 4chan, it's probably... You know why I like 4chan? Every single time you have, like, a shooter or something like that in the real world, the media is like, we don't know, we have to wait for the facts. You go on 4chan, they will flat out tell you his age, his race, his political motivation, what he ate for dinner, the name of his dog, and then later on, like, within, like, a couple of months, you find out that everything was true, so... Apparently, just a compound of non-stop moments and sabotage. So she was paranoid about her ex and girlfriend at home, wanted more attention and fame, didn't like doing any of her work, and demanded being excused. Lots of little things trying to make her life hard, to be forced to go home in an early year. She decided the space was just too much within a week or so. This culminated in the bathroom and how NASA and toilets are sexist because they aren't comfortable and their boys always around. NASA said that the toilet was designed with ladies in mind and it's absolutely uncomfortable for boys too. She was enraged and demanded the toilet to be designed and set up for women and women only. NASA stated that this will take up a year at $100 million, but they'll start. I want to know, like, where they get this information, though, because, like, usually they post sources. She did not like that and demanded to be sent home immediately. I'm not comfortable. I do not want to be here anymore. NASA responded by easing her duties to basically nothing and letting her know that there is a taxi schedule in 9 months. And that they have a few women in power missions planned for her to make her famous. Even the first ever woman outside repair without a man doing it instead. This was not enough. She wanted the rocket home. When NASA said that it's not just the logistics, she flipped. She then refused to bathe, use the restroom properly. This is what I found in the media, by the way, like this part. With not using the restroom properly. Apparently let feces spray all over the place and refused to pick up or follow cleanliness protocols, damaging equipment and causing smells. This is where it starts getting fucky. Apparently the ISS has been the cleanest, freshest, smellest environment ever possible for space. She continued blah blah blah. Now, she's out in space trying to repair a loose bolt near hydraulics with no man doing it or telling her what to do. Except the team of men giving her millimeter-second instructions, but the budget already has like $25 million set aside for complications. 3 hours of luck, cool outside, tighten a bolt on live TV and re-enter. turned into a 6 hours of nervous giggle, girls panicking, almost hurling themselves into space, losing most tools. Where is the guy getting all of this? Because it sounds like an interesting story, but like if I don't have like an actual source, I mean I can, you know, like any anon can go in here and just write whatever they want. So, you know, like, when something sounds, like, too good to be true from, like, diversity bad type of thing, it probably is, you know? Call me an Uber now, ma'am. It's literally a $100 million trip. The thing is, like, I know that NASA wanted to make, like, a toilet seat for women, and it was very expensive. The thing is, like, most things for space are expensive. Because, there's no gravity, right? So, like, I generally don't know how, like, the space toilets go. Because, like, if you shit, it probably goes back up to your ass, right? So, they're probably designed in a way that's not comfortable, necessarily. Like, there must be some some, like, suction or something in order to make sure that the feces go where they're supposed to. Yeah. It's also expensive because, like, besides the spaceships, like, no one else would use them. There's no other reason to have them, except if you're in space, so. This isn't isolated, though. The unprofessional people America sends is a constant complaint. It probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Back during the space race, like, the interest was in doing it properly and doing it good, right? Now being an astronaut is more like a medal, like an achievement. It's more given as a reward. Like, you don't really... I mean, everything is already measured. Like, we know how to send people safely in space. So we can afford to send, like, the type of people that we want to congratulate, right? Like to give them, like, a pat on the back. Oh, God. In space, no one can make you a sandwich? Well, yeah, actually, you can't. They don't... They float. So... Why don't they make artificial gravity anyway? Well, why would they? Like, what's the point? I mean, if you're not actually... So technically, I think it's possible, but it's very expensive. So it's like, just let people float. But then to imagine, like, you're in space. Why don't you want to float? It's fucking cool. Although it's probably weird. Like when you're in space, I guess, like, you float for a couple of days and it's cool, but then you get so pissed off about it. I heard, like, stories that Neil Armstrong, like, when he went back on Earth, he would just drop ashtrays and drop glasses and it would frustrate him to no avail. Like, you would expect the stuff to float, like, in space. So, like, I assume, like, if you save air for 1 year or so, it becomes, like, so difficult to readjust. The thing, though, is that being an astronaut is, like, really horrible. Like, imagine you're going into a place. You got no internet connection. You got nothing to do, and you're stuck in a small ship with several other people, and you're going to sit there for several months. Look up what 0G does to the body. I'm aware. I'm a doctor. I know what 0G does to the body. That's why you're not allowed to sit there for more than 1 year. And you have to constantly do exercises. You're not really floating, but free falling. That's an interesting way to put it. Holy shit, that would feel so fucking weird. Oh my god. Like, imagine you're in a place and you feel like free falling nonstop. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, right, I'll stop it here. I need to go make my other videos, so hopefully I'll see you on the Lack of Entertainment channel. And take care.